So we've seen each other multiple times since
for the first
filming
time
the last.
since we started filming. Yeah,
we filmed quite a few times together, hung out.
Yeah.
But we haven't like at all talked about this and like what we would talk about the next time or anything. So we're coming in pretty fresh.
Yeah. I want to talk about like the big problems that you think that you're working on solving right now and how that's come up with everything that you guys have going on at Trash Panda and then also personal problems.
Yeah.
That's an interesting face.
Yeah. I've started like probably 3 weeks out of this year. I've written down on like a piece of paper everything everywhere, and then just written every single thing that like is in front of me right now or in front of us at Trash Panda and stuff like that. And it kind of just feels like some of the chaos of that movie. I don't know if you've seen Everything Everywhere All at Once.
So good.
So good.
That's one of my favorite movies.
Shout out to one of the guys who worked on the VFX, who is a disc golfer, Zach. Yeah.
Oh, Zach.
Anyway, so I've like, there's just been times where I'm like, I have to get what's in my head out on a piece of paper so I can look at it because there's just so much. But I was thinking about it on my walk this morning, and I've had this like deep feeling this whole year that like something is wrong with Trash Panda. I feel like in a way you've had this feeling, not about Trash Panda, but about Bodanza, like something's not
about
working.
Myself.
Or about yourself. In reference to the last, people can go to the last episode if they're curious about more there. I've been thinking a lot about this, and there's a massive problem with the company. Sounds a little over dramatic, but like really what I mean when it comes down to it, I think there is a skill set or like a muscle in us as entrepreneurs that says, I treat problems way bigger than they are now because I'm seeing where this goes, and over here it is way bigger. So usually when I say like, hey, the whole company's on fire, the whole team's like, the whole company is not on fire. We're doing better this year than we've ever done. And I'm like, it's all on fire right now. So I think there's something in us that is meant to see ahead and go, now that I've hit 5 years, I'm starting to ask the question, what do I need to do to make it to 15 and to enjoy this as time goes on? So when I say there's a big problem, it's not like it's probably a little over dramatic, but it's that mindset of like, what's it going to take to keep going? And I've spent a lot of time this year trying to figure it out.
Are you of the mindset that like what has gotten you here will continue in the most part to get you to 15 with small tweaks? Or do you think that there needs to be like overhaul or big changes that like there's sections that chapters need to open and close?
Yeah. I think there are fundamental shifts that we need to make as a company that will change absolutely nothing as far as the company is concerned, while changing absolutely everything as far as the company is concerned.
Internal versus external?
Internal. Yeah. I mean, there will be some stuff that I think people see, but like when it comes down to it, so I spent so much time in the past year trying to figure out what this problem is to solve. And I just had a meeting with our leadership team where I was walking through all of it, because every time we've faced like an existential problem, it's been pretty obvious to me right in front of us, like, what do we need to do? So I'll take you into it a little bit because you don't have anything going on right now. You got time. So let's go.
I've blocked this out.
We're here. I got nothing going on either. So the very first existential problem that Trash Panda faced on day one was awareness. Literally no one knew who we were. So how do we solve that problem? Start a YouTube channel, just start documenting the process. I figured by the time we have our first disc, people will at least have heard of us, or some people will have heard of us.
So did you have Trash Panda as a concept before you even posted your first video of like where
Oh, yeah.
somewhat of what you wanted to
Yeah.
become?
Oh, yeah.
So you weren't YouTuber first. You were disc manufacturer who's creating awareness.
Well, the first video was I'm going to make a recycled disc in my garage. That actually leads to the second problem because I very naively and some would call stupidly thought I'll be able to make these discs for people in my garage. And by the time we got there, the awareness piece had hit a threshold that was like the next existential problem was we can't manufacture these here. So we have to scale our manufacturing.
So you went from like demand side problem, supply side problem.
Exactly. And the supply problem we solved actually before we even had a disc, we solved it with minis because we were making minis in the garage. I made 5,000. Me and another guy made 5,000 by hand on that machine in the garage.
I had one of those first 1,000.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. So we solved the scale, but then even beyond that, we continued to have the supply side problem because making a disc out of 100% recycled plastic is incredibly tough, and it takes someone at the machine day in and day out, like committed to figuring it out, and that just ultimately wasn't what our manufacturers like is optimized for. They're optimized for creating processes, setting and forgetting, and like in injection molding, you're trying to run 40,000 pounds in a row. Don't turn off. The machines are not made to turn off. They're made to just keep running. And I mean, we're in essence, hyperbole, we're turning off the machine every single time we put new plastic in, or while we're running plastic and the plastic is slightly changing because recycled is just varying constantly.
Yep.
So all that to say, then we brought manufacturing in-house. Everything has just been so obvious, and this is the one that hasn't been the most obvious to me. And I've been working through trying to figure out what's going on, and it all comes back to the saying, it's so cliche, so I apologize. Work smarter, not harder. I think I'm really good at working harder, and I think I'm not great at working smarter. Maybe there was something in me that was like raised with the like elbow grease mentality of just like push a little harder. But I told the team, and I made a video for our patrons the other day about this, where I just said, the answer to our problems cannot be do more and work harder. There has to be a system. There has to be a paradigm in which Trash Panda operates where it isn't we need to do more and more and more and more and more. And disc golf, I think, is littered with that at the end of the day, when it's like, what's the answer to doing well as a business as far as disc golf? New releases, right? Just constantly release new things. And we've seen, I feel like maybe the overarching theme of these conversations we're having is like longer time horizon. Like we've seen on a longer time horizon, that doesn't necessarily work for companies. It oversaturates. It loses hype where once hype was. And so all of that to say, I think this is the year we're turning into a real company. This is the year we move from just like startup, and we can kind of be, I don't know if my team likes it, but I call us a kindergartner because we just hit 5 years. And like for some reason, on one hand, it's like, we have to be honest with ourselves. We're acting like a 5-year-old who's running a company, and we need to get better. But also, on another hand, it's not that embarrassing, right? Because we're 5. We haven't been doing this long. And, the other ones who are making discs in this industry are 10 plus years, are 30 plus years old. Like, they've been doing it for a while. So all that to say, I'm currently digging to find the pieces of the company where we can create systems and where we can create and we can solve problems that in turn have a trickle down effect that solve 100 other problems that are inside the company by just focusing on that one, call it a force multiplier. So I don't know if any of that made sense, but I'm a verbal processor and it made sense to me. So here we are.
I'm sure also listeners will appreciate that verbal processing happened at half speed compared to last episode.
Dude, I actually wanted to call back to this.
Yeah.
I forgot to mention this in our first conversation where we talked about your first video, but I remember, or not your first video, your video with Trash Man.
Yeah.
And it was your first video.
Essentially the first video that's important. Obviously.
Yeah, your first non-POV. The first one to like actually, I think it hit 10K or something like that.
Yeah, pretty fast.
And a lot of comments came through that were like, this guy talks way too fast. This guy talks way too fast. And the craziest thing about YouTube is like people can comment one thing, but you see the analytics and you can say, based on the analytics, based on audience retention, it worked.
Yeah.
Like based on click through, it worked. And so I was like, one thing I'm so like, I don't know a better word than this, but I'll say proud of watching you from the sidelines is that you've just been you the whole time.
Yeah.
That's not going to change. And anyone who thinks you talk too fast, they can go watch me if I talk slow or something, whatever.
I mean, I don't think they're wrong. I think it's one of the things that actually has been, so since our last conversation, got like to put a couple small buttons on that piece of things. One, Tuesday, I'm super excited. I'm visiting with a psychiatrist. And
nice.
Finally we're gonna figure out a good schedule of actual medication.
Yeah.
Because basically I got diagnosed with ADHD 2 years ago, maybe. I was given stimulant medication through some various influences, didn't take it super consistently or too much. Recently, after a conversation, listened to a couple books that you'd recommended, and then I've been listening to I forget exactly the name, but it's How to Live and Thrive as an Adult with ADHD. Okay. As someone who, looking back, I've had ADHD my whole life, but I've just been diagnosed as an adult. And then circumstances exacerbated things with stopping like paying for training, with changing my goals from trying to just be pro, which training is a very big help in like working out for someone with ADHD. And I stopped that. And then having a kid and doing a caretaker role, splitting that 50-50 with my wife, and she's much better at it. And I feel not very incompetent. I'm very good at it, like as a relative, but like in terms of things that I've done before, I feel incompetent because it's new and always changing.
Totally.
And so I'm very excited to be getting back on some sort of figuring out what's the right medication and get back on it to normalize my brain. And this leads into exactly what you're saying, because one of the things that I've realized is in that book, one of the things that was very interesting to me is that as someone with ADHD, you don't like, they say like around 27 to 32 is when you start to see yourself as other people see you. And so to me, it was just like normal, and like the way that I did things was just like, this is just how it is and is normal and stuff. But more and more, I'm seeing myself as like, it's like not normal, but like also I'm like falling into an okayness with it. So I definitely see like where they're coming from, and I don't think like anyone is wrong with that. But I also just think I'm going to try to like find my space and do what I do with like still being myself, which is what I've always done. But there's been a dissonance with it because I felt like, why is this not resonating with more people? But now I'm like, dude, it's just not gonna like, and I can't force it to, because if I try, I like either just get paralyzed and don't make anything, or I just make stuff that feels inauthentic, and then I never, I just don't do that because I can't, like, there's something in my brain that I just can't do that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, dude, congrats. I mean, that's a really big step.
Yeah, man. I'm
worth celebrating.
I'm super excited. So the reason I decided to do it, a part of it was I had maybe 10 or 15 from August of last year, like pills left that I just like hadn't taken. And I took a couple, and like the night and day difference that I felt, and that my wife was like, dude, this is sick. And this was on like half dosages. And like, it was for a lot of the days, like, oh my gosh, this is, because one of the things that the book really, it doesn't harp on it too much, but it like just reinforces that like it is a disorder and it's something you're going to live with forever, and there is no cure. And not like in a way that's like pessimistic or nihilistic, but in a way that's like it's realistic. It's like my brain is different. And it's like one of the things, I don't know if it's a 1-for-1, but the way that the book put it, and it's like a doctor who's like one of the main guys studying ADHD. And he's like, it's like if a diabetic didn't take insulin, because they're like, I could fix it with diet and exercise. It's like, maybe, but like, why would you not take the best medicine? Because like medications for ADHD, which is the most like researched and the most treatable mental health disorder. Like the medications are like multiples of how effective they are to anything else for it.
I would guess if you took that analogy further too, just because you take insulin as a diabetic doesn't mean you shouldn't also diet and exercise. Yeah. And so for you, just because you get medication doesn't mean you shouldn't also be self-aware and trying to improve as a human being.
Yeah. It's it's using it as more of a platform to normalize myself and build habits upon, because like there's just things that like literally feel next to impossible with my current life circumstances that haven't before. Like before having a kid, it was way easier because I could orient my entire life around myself and like masking my needs. But now that I'm in a caretaker role for more than half of a work week, and like it's actually going to be more now. We're changing how my wife and I do it, which is going to be more beneficial for both of us, even though I'm working weirder hours, which works more for me, which is kind of stupid. But having the life circumstances change and not medicating for it in a way that just like gets me back to normal without having habits that I've built up because I've like used my lifestyle to mask the things. Like I made it easier for me in a way that hasn't like worked on the things that needed to be worked on.
Yeah, interesting.
So yeah, that's that. I'm very excited to be and not only just like getting drugs, like that's not the important thing. The important thing is like working with a psychiatrist to get a schedule of like what actually works medication wise, adjusting dosages, and then work on the lifestyle things with a professional. So I'm really excited about that. So if you struggle with that, do it.
What the title of the book was? What, like how to survive and thrive as an adult with ADHD?
Like, let me see.
I think it's worth calling out for if anyone watching this is interested. So.
It's called Taking Charge of Adult ADHD.
So pretty much exactly what I said, just not at all.
Yeah, it's like basically word for word by a PhD Russell A. Barkley.
Okay.
So the very first part of the book is if you've been told online or just by people that you have ADHD, the first part of that book runs. It's not a self-diagnostic thing. Like you're not supposed to self-diagnose, but like it'll give you like, should I go see a psychiatrist and seek out an actual diagnosis? Or is it just something where like the tendencies of someone with ADHD or the tendencies is like one of the things I was telling is a big part of the book was about like the people in the normal population. It's like this symptom, people in the normal population, 3 to 5%, people with ADHD, 86%. And it's like every single one of those, I was like, yeah, this is just normal. And then the more that they ran through it and the normal population was like 1 to 2%, I was like, oh my God.
Interesting.
This is not what I expected. But yeah, so that's Taking Charge of Adult ADHD. I think it's been a really helpful book for me so far.
Yeah, cool.
And so Trash Panda, moving forward, have you figured out, do you think, what like things are that you're wanting to change?
Yes.
Are there something that like people would easily recognize, or is it such like behind the scenes internal things that you're like, it only affects like you and your team, but it increases longevity in the long run?
Yeah, I mean, I would say 95% of it is that internal where no one will notice any differences.
Maybe not specifics, but like principles of stuff.
Well, yeah, I mean, the fundamental, like the core of it all is we don't have systems as a company that we operate within. And so I asked our leadership team when we sat down for this meeting, I said, what's our best system? And that was a trick question because we don't have them. So our best system is only something we've fallen into, or it's just been such a disproportionate pain point that we've had to solve for some things. Case in point, you know what's going on right now? Holiday use this swap. Not right now. We're still holding our breath, but that will be happening. Yeah. And the holiday use this swap is like, do you know the history of it?
No.
Okay, so I think I have one good idea a year. But the first year of Trash Panda, it was the holiday use disc swap. And it was actually called, creative title, heads up, forewarned, give a disc, get a disc. That was the title. And I was like, if 30 people joined, that'd be so cool that like 30 people are swapping used discs. And 330 people joined.
Oh, wow.
And that was when no one really knew who we were. And so then the next year, we hit 1,000. The next year it was like 3,000. Then it was a little over 4,000 or just below 5. Last year was over 8,000. So it's just constantly gotten bigger and bigger and bigger. And the logistical nightmare that it is for our team is I can't articulate it. Like I can only talk about it and it seems manageable. And then it's like, it's just not. It's a massive mountain that we close at the end of January and then we open at the beginning of September and start to work through all of it. And it's just so much work for that window of time. And then we literally just like close the door and forget about it and just like push it to the side and then pick it back up in September.
Yeah.
So, our best system at this point is the holiday use disk swap. And it still has room for improvement. Of course, systems are never final, but it's by necessity because we would be dying with the workload if we hadn't created certain systems within that event. And so the same goes for like really everything else. They haven't been as large of pain points as the holiday use disk swap quickly became until now. Now these things are starting to, and I'm probably even again over dramatizing it, where it's like it's going to be a really big pain point over there, but right here it's fine for now. But it's like I see where we're going, and we need to create these systems for everything we do. There's like we do, so the cameras are pointed this way, but you can see the amount of small batch plastic we have in here alone, and it's over there. And it's over here, and it's over there, and it's out there, and it's in that shed, and like it's everywhere, right? So like what system do we have for optimizing our plastic intake? And a lot of our plastic intake, by the way, is not just, oh, hey, you have recycled plastic that's ground up. It's we got discs, and now those discs need to be ground up. We got phone cases, and now those phone cases need to be ground up. So there's a whole workload that comes with all of this. And there's no system from start to finish, but if there was a system, think about the potentials we have for small batch as a company. I mean, if there's one company that should be making small batch versions of their discs that are just unique and cool and different, because if there's one company that should be doing that, I think it's us.
Yeah.
I'm very biased, but also we've been running the disc recycling program now for a couple years. And we have like, a stack of, let's call it 30 or 50 of the same type of disc. And we've been saving them in hopes that like we'll get another 100 or couple hundred, and then we can make those together in a run. But now at the scale where we're at, 100 or a couple hundred is just a quick promotion that sells out that same day.
Yeah.
So it's not a run. It's just a cool little thing. And we've been collecting for so long that it's like those 50 discs have turned into probably 65 discs, right? Or those other 50 discs have turned into 550 discs of the same varietal or kind or plastic, whatever. So when I say systems and like force multipliers, when I look at our plastic organization and storage for recycled plastic intake, the process of grinding it up, where does it go from there? When do we choose to make it into something? How does that get released to the public? That's one core problem that now is going to trickle out and solve so many other issues. So that would be like an example of something that I'm really excited about, because it's so fun to have like, that we did the Dune made of Doomsday plastic. It was plastic Doomsday sent us, or discs Doomsday sent us that were orange. We ground them up and they turned brown. And that's never happened to us. We've ground so many colors and they turn into that same color. And this is the one where it's like a fully different color.
This is a problem with radioactivity, man.
Yeah.
Radioactive decay. It just happens.
Radiation all up. Yeah. It was one of those things we were like, if it happened with any company's disc, it would be Doomsday's disc. But that was fun. So we stamped skull and crossbones on top, and that was a really small run we did. And that's cool and fun and unique. And then on to the next thing. And if someone loves that, great, they can get that. And if someone loves something else, great, they can get that. So
do you have an idea of the number of systems that you'd want to implement? Or are there kind of systems and systems within systems? Like, do you want intake, manufacturing, outflow, invoicing, receiving, and then inside of those you each have little systems?
Yeah.
Like, what do you think about? Like, or like, are you just gonna try to go one by one? Do you have a system of creating your systems?
Yes to all of that. And I know that wasn't a yes or no question.
Nah, I get yeses are fine.
To me, when you look at a company like us and you're looking at the back end and it needs systems everywhere, you can start to get paralyzed by how many systems you need to create, or you can say, what are the most important systems to solve at this point? So I had a mentor early on give me an analogy. I don't know if I've ever mentioned this with you, but for a business where it's like a bucket, and a bucket that has holes all over it. What hole is most important to fill if you want to fill that bucket with water? It's not necessarily going to be the biggest hole. It's the holes at the bottom, right?
Yeah.
And working your way up intentionally. The biggest hole might be up on the side and it might be gaping, but the water level is never going to even get there if it's a strainer below that, right? And so when I'm looking at it, I'm kind of holding two things. On one hand, I'm holding that analogy of like, what are the necessary things we need to create systems for? And they might not be, oh, we create this one system and it solves a bunch of things. It might be, this is just fundamentally necessary, and we need to do this one thing that will only do this one thing. And then I'm also looking at, kind of branching off of that analogy, what are things we can solve that by solving that one thing, it solves other things as well. So, I guess if you went back to that analogy, it might be a big hole at the bottom of the bucket. And it's like, well, we should probably solve the big hole at the bottom of that bucket.
Yeah.
So, on another end of that, I think it's helpful to say, like, we are doing better than we've ever done before. We're growing as a company. We are on pace to hit our goals for the year. And if anyone knows anything about the behind the scenes of the industry of disc golf, it's like a restabilization year. And last year was as well. A lot of people are not seeing the numbers they're looking for. And so we are doing well, but to get where we need to go, I guess going back to the question you asked, what got us here, I don't think it will get us there. And I think we need to change some things. I was also going to say something else with that.
Do you think
I've
those are
forgotten.
superficial or factual? Like, is that something that, like, you the same thing that got you here isn't going to get you there in a superficial sense of like the actual things that need to do, whereas the underlying values and core things for the company are the same, or you're going to have to change some of those as well?
Oh, so I wrote down like our vision, mission, goals early on. Like before I'd hired anyone, before I'd made a disc. I'm in my first garage, probably within the first month, I wrote down like a vision mission. And the best part about Trashman is none of that's changed. It's always been our guiding light. And going into this, that doesn't change as well. We're still fundamentally the same company, and we still fundamentally do the same things.
You're just kind of taking principles from the infinite game of like, this is still the guiding thing. Let's see how long we stay towards this mission.
Yeah, it's always been the guiding thing. I mean, I said in a lot of videos early on, like, the ultimate vision of Trash Panda is that we are no longer able to stay in business because every company is making discs out of recycled plastic and we don't have a differentiator. A, that will never happen.
Yeah.
But B, if on the other side of this, I am just a disc golfer who is stoked to be throwing recycled discs like I wanted to be when I was a disc golfer who didn't make recycled discs, like, I'm good. So, I mean, that would be hard not to have the company anymore and stuff like that, but I can get over that when like our vision for the future of this sport is accomplished.
I also don't think that in that vision of that future, all plastics manufacturing would have to be fully recyclable, because otherwise you're not taking phone cases from a disc golf company and recycling those into discs.
Yeah.
Like, well, there's the ability to make that.
There is enough plastic out there for all disc golf companies to use recycled plastic and not even scrape the surface of what's out there.
Do you think about it as a business first thing or a consumer first thing? Because the way that you talked about it was more when like, I want these other manufacturers to be doing this, not I want recycled discs in everyone's bags. How do you think about that?
That is a chicken or the egg question.
Okay.
When we started, the reason people hadn't used recycled plastic or weren't really using recycled plastic was because I was told from one of the bigger manufacturers that there's just not a market for it. hold my beer.
Yeah.
I'm like, you know what I mean? It was, and then we've seen Prodigy release 100% recycled blend. We've seen Discraft release 100% recycled blend. Both of them have told me directly that it was because of what we've been doing. And what I hear, which they didn't say, so I'm not quoting them saying this, but what I hear from that is that we've proven that there is a market for this.
Yeah.
The exact opposite of what I was told. So now, why did they do it? Was it just because of what we did, or was it because consumers were actually creating that demand? I think it's chicken or the egg. I think it's both there.
Yeah.
So
that doesn't seem like a one or the other thing.
Yeah. But I was going to say something else about
systems.
Yeah. And the business. And I'm sure it'll come back to me. And by that, I mean, I'm sure it won't come back to me. It's gone. But what did you mentioned The Infinite Game. What did you think about that book?
I really liked it. So The Infinite Game, do you want to explain the conceit of that? I'm sure you do a better job than I would.
Maybe. Basically there are finite and there are infinite games. And a finite game is one where there's a clear winner and loser. There's a clear end point. And an infinite game is one where there's not a clear winner or loser, and there's not a clear like end point.
And the goal is to stay playing the game.
Yes. Yeah. And so like the analogy I will typically use when I'm describing it to people is like basketball is a finite game. There is a clear winner or loser. There's an end point, whatever. And then marriage is an infinite game.
Yeah.
I'm not saying some people don't treat marriage like a finite game.
Yeah.
That's a whole different thing. I think there's probably another book on that. But the point being like the goal of marriage is not to win.
Yeah.
The goal is to keep playing the game, whatever that is in that context. So
I think so. I've really enjoyed. I've been listening to a lot of books like The Infinite Game. I find I listen to books much more consistently than I read them. But I've also been reading, and The Infinite Game actually pairs very well with a book called Mindset by Dr. Carol Dweck.
Okay.
I'm not super far into it, but a lot of this year has been quite introspective. Quite basically like you have a kid, and then life. All your systems get broken and changed because everything is changed, especially the way that my wife and I are doing it. It's not the way that I recommend any new parents do it. We basically don't have community here. So it's like only ever us doing everything. And we both work or try to work full time.
Yeah.
And so that's been really hard. And so it's forced a lot of, a difficult situation is going to force a lot of ingenuity and change. And I thought that was inevitable, but there also seems to be the other side of that where you can just like let it overwhelm you and then just get distracted and just like do the bare minimum. And that's kind of where I feel like I've fallen in a lot of it. And I think a lot of it is because I haven't realized how much of a finite game I've been playing, because the finite game is very beneficial for my brain because it's much more instant gratification. It's much less like high level. And similarly, the book Mindset by Carol Dweck is about growth mindset versus scarcity mindset.
Yeah.
And
I think I've read that book before, but I don't remember for sure.
Maybe it's something that already the first chapter or two have really like impressed a lot on me, in that I thought that I had a growth mindset versus scarcity mindset, but the way that it's talked about here, which is more fleshed out, less that like, oh, you think you can get better at things versus you think that's impossible. The way that gets actually fleshed out in like the subconscious ways and like the ways that you prove that, I've realized I have much more of a scarcity mindset than I would have thought of. Than I would have thought. I think especially as I got to a point where like I didn't have to have all these hyper goals for hyper growth, because if I sustain, things are good enough. Yeah. But I'm atrocious at sustaining. I've been very good at like building things, but I'm very bad at sustaining it. And I'm also very bad at building past the point where I need to sustain it. Because if I'm at a point right now where like I can sustain it, that's great. I don't feel like there's no instinct. I'm very bad at long-term gratification compared to instant gratification. And if there's no present and real need for me growing to like these bigger and bigger points, I'm like, why? In a sense. And so I end up like getting distracted. And if I actually work on it, I'll still do it. But the way that those two things kind of work together, and one of the other things that taught me besides that is, you said there's no winners and losers, but one of the more insidious ways that shows itself, I think I'm talking a little too negatively about myself here in my mindset. But one of the other ways that shows itself is that you see people as enemies versus rivals. And so in the finite game, you see people as enemies. And I've realized that's a lot of how I've perceived other disc golfers, other people, other like business people, other whatever, is like it's much more zero sum. It's like if you have it, I can, and you take it, and then it's more of like a subconscious animosity. Like I don't feel this way. I haven't acted this way towards anybody, but and like deep down, like I don't feel that. But like and superficially, the easiest way to interact with people if you're playing a finite game is that they're enemies, and so it's you don't want to build relationships. You don't want to like get closer or whatever. It's much more insular versus in the finite game, they're rivals. Which like even if you just like watch like the biggest thing I think about.
You said finite game. Yeah. He had a chapter called Healthy Rivals, right?
Yeah. And that was like that was also very eye-opening because it's like I would rather have rivals. I would rather have people that like there's can be a healthy competition, but you look up to them, you respect them.
Yeah.
I'm not enemies with anybody, and like I shouldn't be.
Yeah.
And I think these kind of things and these mindset changes and a lot of kind of what's going on this year are hopefully moving me in a direction that I want to be going. But that was one of the bigger takeaways that I had as well, is just the interpersonal way that the infinite and finite game affects most parts of life.
Yeah, it's so funny the similarities of what you and I are experiencing on a week-to-week basis this year, day to day, minute to minute, that is for not even close to the same reasons. Like our like ecosystems are completely different, but we're like processing very similar things.
Yeah.
There's a Harvard Business Review article about pie enlargers versus pie slicers from years ago. And I've told so many people.
This is exactly how I feel about disc golf. I didn't know that was a thing. That's exactly how I feel about the disc golf market.
Yes. I've told so many people since I read Infinite Game that like it should be required reading for people in the industry of disc golf. Mm-hmm. But like the idea of pie enlarger versus pie slicer is simply for me to grow my slice of the pie. As a pie slicer mentality, I have to take some of your slice to grow mine. Yep. And the idea of the pie enlarger mentality is for me to grow my slice of the pie, I can proportionally keep the same slice and we could just work together to grow the pie.
Yeah.
I feel like I
think also mathematically, the interesting thing about that is that those proportions are bigger because the more you grow the pie, like if you grow the pie 1%, your share goes up by a little more than 1% because of the arc.
Yeah.
And like the more that you grow it, the higher percentage that you're going to take out of it.
This podcast conversation is not typically about this, but I think the question needs to be asked. What if disc golf is not where it should be? What if we are, as the people behind the scenes in the industry, what if we are the leading reason disc golf is not where it should be or where it could be?
Yeah, I feel a part of that big time. I've thought about this actually a lot recently in the way that I've created content and like kind of why my channel is shifting a little bit and like why my like it was much more about me and my journey to pro, and now I want it to be much more about like just everything being a lot of value for people and inspiring people to get outside and throw discs.
Yeah.
In a bunch of different ways to do that, rather than just like by reviewing discs, because I think that's fun, by playing new courses and challenges or whatever, and it being less about like, let me share my journey and how good I am and let me make money from this, and more of like,
totally,
let me just like do its best. But I think it's easier, especially in the economic cycle that disc golf is in right now, to be a little more scarce in your mindset, because it requires so much more work to be collaborative and to grow things from a more place of abundance that everyone's going to get theirs. And like, if I see you making a big return and my videos aren't doing very well right now, I'm going to get jealous and like think you're my enemy, rather than like, okay, like how do we grow this together and like work in a collaborative way? I personally am not of the opinion that like disc golf has to be this massive thing and that it is inevitable that it's going to grow to this big thing. But I do think that it is being held back by the way that we are doing things. Maybe not we in like a you and I sense, but in the way that people who are influencing the disc golf market, whether that be retailers, content creators, whatever, manufacturers, like everybody, people who sell discs, people who like make stuff about discs. I think that, and I don't think that this is not a unique disc golf problem. This happens in basically every smaller market. I think it's just the way that the human condition is in a lot of ways, is like you have to figure out how to fight against your like evolutionary self and like the things that have served us that no longer serve us, because the world is so different. And I put much less of a moral judgment on it than I would have like a couple months ago. But I also think like it's less of a disc golf is gonna die and like this is terrible from like a moral sense, and much more of like what do we want out of it and how do we get the most benefit for people, and then in turn ourselves, because that is easy to turn the most benefit for ourselves and people versus like for our audiences and ourselves. Like, and I think when I'm operating my best and thinking about that in the best way, it's always thought of like, I want to create so much value for people that I can get rich off disc golf because I capture a small portion of that value that I create for other people. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So you said the word goal maybe 10 or 15 minutes ago somewhere, and it just made me think of the question, like, what is the goal you're looking at now? What is the target? Because we've talked about this a couple times now.
Yeah. I still don't have, it's still not fully fleshed out for me.
Okay.
I think much more of the goal is to continue playing the game on a pro level and on a influencer level.
Yeah.
I have other business things that I think will eventually make me much more money than disc golf, and that I also am very excited about doing and like want to do. And I'm going to be pursuing. But before, because I was such a finite game person and such a scarce minded, and like it still is my tendency, it's basically like all or nothing, where it's like, okay, well, looks like I have to stop disc golf and go do this thing. Because it's always been one project. But now I'm at a point where I've built a pretty stable platform for myself, audience wise, finance wise, that it's like, let me branch off of this platform, but still keep doing it, like still build on it. But like the level of like all of my energy that I take from my family, that I take from my health, that I take from my fitness, that I take from everything goes into building this business thing. Let me put more of it in all these buckets and see like it, in just an intrapersonal way. If spreading out that and building the pie of myself does like rising tide raises all ships kind of thing. So my personal goal is to more stay in the game. And the goal, honestly, at this point is to create habits that make that self-sustainable. And a big part of that is needing my mental health to be at a baseline floor of like getting medicated so I can build those habits. Cause I've done a lot of work, really trying my ass off to try to build all these habits and do it by myself. But my, like, there's literally a chemical imbalance or like something in my brain that does not let it happen. And like, I'm sure that there are people who have the same level of ADHD that I do that have done it, but I'm just like not as good as them or something. And like, maybe there's not, but I'm not going to like assume that I'm like the best at doing it, but I am going to get the help that I think that I need to reach that goal, which is like playing the game as long as I can. If we're specifically talking about disc golf, like I want to be a pro for 10 or 15 years. And there was a time when I didn't even know if I want to continue playing disc golf this year. But like the more I watch it, it's like, no, dude, I want to do that. But I don't want to like pour my all into just being able to throw far. I want to like have that. I want to like be working on throwing far all the time, every week, but like that as a part of a more thriving life. And so I don't really have like these big goals for anything. My goal is to really like grow that pie for myself. Like that analogy you were just talking about, like intrapersonally.
I mean, I think your goal right now is not to sound cheesy, but is to find the goal. Like that's what you've been working towards, is like what you're working towards, figuring out what you're working towards, right?
I don't even know if there is going to be one though. Like, I don't think that there has to be one on the other side. You know what I mean? Which is why I think I would have agreed with you last month. And this month, I think like that is a goal for me, is the, and it feels like a goal. And I don't know, it feels like more of an infinite goal though, where it's like, I don't know if I'll ever fully reach it, but I also don't want to like force finding a goal. I think a goal will find me more so than like I'm trying to find a goal. I'd rather just work on these things, and then like I think the goal will find me. You know what I mean? I get what you're saying though. I think you're mostly right.
I guess tune in to next month to see how we feel at that point.
What about you? What are your thoughts on that? The pie question?
Oh, I mean, I'm pie and larger all day.
No, in terms of where disc golf is versus could be.
Oh,
the question you posed to me.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm with you on the, like, it doesn't need to be this massive thing. I would love for disc golf to get to the place. I'm not looking at disc golf going, oh, it needs to be on par with golf and all these other things, but I would just like it to get to the place where it's taken seriously by the general population, where there's a general respect for the sport, and it's not, oh, the hippies are doing this thing, kind of like, classic. That's as the guy who started playing in 2008.
Do you still think like, that's the case? Because I feel like it's more on the respect side than not, but there's always going to be people who detract from it.
Every time I'm talking to someone who does not know about disc golf and does not know about Trash Panda, they ask what I do and I talk about Trash Panda. There's a stereotype of a disc golfer that they say, oh, well, your audience must love that. They're outdoorsy. They must love the recycled plastic like mission.
Is that just a Colorado thing? Because that feels like a Colorado answer. Because
No,
this is like
that
makes sense.
no, it's all around.
Okay.
I've seen it all around. And there's just kind of like this general, I think there's a general like granola stereotype of the disc golfer. And now granted, like, you know, that's way too high of a view, like from 1 million feet above. Like when you get down into it, the general population of like Emporia is going to have a different view of disc golf than I'm talking about. Like they have a massive warehouse with a massive company that's like invested in the sport. They have very high caliber courses. Like it's a totally different story for that population. I think just, and mine is more Denver specific because those are the circles that I'm in, but also like I've seen it everywhere else where when I talk about Trash Panda and I say recycled plastic, there's just this general consensus that our audience has to be stoked about that because they're outside and hippies and play disc golf.
Interesting.
So I think that for me, the long term of it is not that we need to be this massive thing like the NBA, but like I would just love to see disc golf at a place where people take it seriously. And parks departments are saying we have to find a way to get a disc golf course in this new park. And even general, like, I was at Farringer the other day. It was like 7 a.m. maybe. So there's like 2 of us on the course. Actually, it was like 6 a.m. So there's like 2 of us on the course. And this lady comes walking through and there's this like kind of open space right next to it where people walk all the time. But she's walking down the fairway towards me. And she said, she was like, the guy in front of you told me to get off the fairway or I'd get hit by a disc. And she was like, I'm a Douglas County resident. I can walk wherever I want. First off, there's an attitude problem, of course.
Yeah.
But then she also said, it's just a plastic disc. How bad can it hurt? As you've seen, we're in a series right now where Tom's throwing discs at me on Instagram. They hurt real bad. And that's from like no power from a distance, from a close distance. On a drive, they hurt real bad.
Did you let her know?
Oh, I told her. I was like, oh, no, they actually...
Experientially?
No, I wasn't in that series quite yet. I wish I could go back to that time.
No, I thought you were just going to throw it at her.
No. That's what I mean when I say the seriousness of like, oh, there's a disc golf course here. This is a really cool thing that builds community, adds value to our community. And the way that lady, and I'm not saying she is how everyone is, but like the way she views disc golf is that course is inconvenient to her life. And her life can just pass through that because it's in her way, not she's in its way. And I mean, don't throw a disc when there's someone walking down the fairway, and be respectful of like the local residents and everything like that. But it'd be really cool if it was like, whoa, that's a really cool value add to our community. And thus we respect it versus just the general consensus of it's inconvenient. So that's a bigger conversation outside of the sport. And it doesn't necessarily answer the question, are we the ones prohibiting that from being? I think more just it answers the question of where I want to see disc golf get to.
Yeah.
Because disc golf for me has been, I don't know if I've ever talked about this with you or like where I've talked about it publicly, but like disc golf for me was therapy for a decade. And I don't mean that actually. If you need therapy, you should go to therapy, period, full stop. For me, it was playing. I played for 10 years. I mean, I probably averaged, when all was said and done, like every 3 days of playing for 10 years. Like I played most of the time, it was daily. And it was just, I was constantly playing. And 90% of the time, I was alone. I love playing alone. I love just being outside, and I love the where I see disc golf as an infinite game is I just want to be better at disc golf than I was yesterday. But I'm not trying to get better to win X tournament.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to get better to be better than myself yesterday and like constantly improve. And so I see that. I see what it did for me. This last weekend was the Rocky Mountain Women's Disc Golf Championship. Or actually, I say this last weekend. It's going on literally right now as we're sitting here. Today's the final day. And I see what it's doing for a community of women in this sport. And I'm like, more of this, please. Meanwhile, there's someone whose backyard butts up to the course that they're playing, who I've heard will just stand there like this, mean mugging everyone who's trying to play a tournament because they think disc golf is the most inconvenient thing ever to their life. And again, that's now limited to like someone's life where they have a house that backs up to a park and they don't like change. But anyway, I think I just would love to see the sport be taken seriously by a general population, which I think I'm even limiting it now. As I'm saying this, I feel like I'm even limiting it to the US. Like when you look at Worlds this year, does it seem like the country of Finland takes disc golf somewhat seriously?
Yeah.
At least from afar it does. However, not speaking from experience, I have no idea. At least here in the US, I'd like to see it get taken seriously because it is such a value add to people's lives. It's so good. It has the potential to be so good. So, yeah. I actually just got out on Friday for the first time in a while to play by myself. Nice. And it was really nice. And it was just like, I went up, I was in the mountains, and it was like, it eerily reminded me of growing up. I grew up outside Tahoe, so I would go up and play the courses that were on those ski resorts. And I played at A Basin, which is on a ski resort. And I don't know, it just kind of took me back, and it was just so nice being out there, fresh air in the mountains early. Like I got up there as the sun was rising. Like I just love that, you know? Yeah. So yeah, I'm fine with, all of that said, when we look at a longer time horizon, when was the first disc golf course when was the first golf course installed in St. Andrews?
Late 1800s, probably.
Okay. I feel like it had to be before then. Are you looking?
Yeah, I'm going to look.
Yeah. I feel like it was before then, but regardless, even if it was then or soon after that, we've got time.
Yeah.
We've got time to keep building this thing into something. Wait, hold on. I'm going to say something, and I'm probably going to look stupid too. But was it like 1500s? What was it?
1552.
1552. Okay.
Yeah. Wow, that's crazy.
See, we got so much time. We don't have to rush through this. Now, on the other end,
one of the things that's interesting is the acceleration of industrialization. I feel like everything feels forced to be rushed. Like it feels like in my head, illogically, because it's not how time works, but it's like, oh, if it was before industrialized time, global communication, it doesn't quite count. It's like everything from that counts. You know what I mean? And it's like not sure. It's definitely not true. And I think it does accelerate the timetables. Like I don't think we'll have to wait 500 years like they did or whatever. But like I also like it can grow faster. I think it's finding the push and pull of growing it, but doing it for the right reasons and growing the pie rather than trying to take bigger slices. Because it's easy to think about growth from your own perspective and have it and think about it as you're growing the pie, but it wind up being trying to take a bigger slice. Yeah. Versus, and so I think it takes a lot more work and effort to identify what actually is growing the pie versus taking a bigger slice and then doing that work, because both to you from your little piece of the pie feel like growth because your pie is growing, but which one's actually doing the right work that benefits the most people in terms of industry and consumers?
Well, and that's the other question I keep asking the team this year.
Yeah.
Is I don't doubt that we're working on things. We're always busy.
Yeah.
I have an eerie feeling of doubt that we're not working on the right things. And so it's finding the right things to work on.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know. We've talked about all of that with like infinite game and where disc golf could go and everything like that. But then at the end of the day, it's worth also calling out, like, I've got to make payroll.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's my biggest stress right now is making sure that when we move and when Carissa stops working, that our family doesn't go bankrupt. Like, not like in an actual sense, but like that we don't not make enough money to survive and that's to pull everything from savings. Yeah.
And now it extends not just off of myself and my immediate family, but like employees.
Yeah.
And like
you got families.
Yeah. And not like everyone at Trash Panda has a partner and their partner also works. So it's not like someone's entirely depending on us at the moment, but like the reality of I've got to have enough money in the bank account stands sometimes at least it seems like it stands in stark contrast to an infinite mindset. And that's why we go to scarcity. That's why we go to the infinite game or the finite game. It's very easy to say, I want to work together and invest in this thing. But like, you should also definitely buy the $20 disc from me because then I can pay payroll.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't want to not say that because it's a constant stress of like, when we released the Inner Core, we sold 10,000 of them. That was awesome. It was also on the back of not selling anything for 2.5 years.
Yeah.
So do I think that was all because of the market and what it was like in 2022? I think partially there was an element of that. But do I also think that if I didn't sell a disc for the next 2.5 years, but only talked about working towards selling that disc, we could also sell 10,000 when we dropped it? Yeah.
Yeah.
But you can't do that. Right. And so it's just this like, yeah, it's all, and that simplifies our company way too much. You asked a question earlier about the systems. So if we want to zoom out all the way, we do two things. We make stuff and we tell stories. And actually, we tell stories and we make stuff. Because in telling stories, what we do is we inspire. And how big of an impact do we make if I convince myself that every time I play disc golf, I pick up trash? Versus we inspire disc golfers to pick up one piece of trash every time they play. What's the impact look like, right?
Yeah.
Or we as a company make a product out of recycled plastic, or we inspire the other companies to make a product out of recycled plastic, right? So inspiration and telling stories, that's the number one of what we do. But without doing the second part of what we do, I talk about this all the time with the team, that is talk the talk without walking the walk. And so we walk the walk. All of this behind us and all of what we do with making discs is actually putting our money where our mouth is, saying we can do something like this, so let's do something like this.
Yeah.
So I don't want to boil our company down to just like selling Frisbees. That's not really who we are. So it's a little easier for us to see that side of the world. Whereas some other companies, I think they have to see it as being the best, selling the most, making the most money.
I think there's who we are and what you do. And a lot of companies and people don't know who they are. They just know what they do. And then they transmute that onto who they are when there could be a difference there. Because I think like in talking about payroll and talking about making enough income for myself, like there are finite games within the infinite game, but the infinite game needs to always be the game that you're trying to play forever. Like there's always, like basketball is a real game. Like it is a finite game. Like there are things, and that's good.
Yeah, but does LeBron,
does it
did
serve
Michael Jordan,
game?
like, did they see it as just one game to win?
Yeah, exactly.
Or was it like a long term? Yeah. Kobe as well. I think anyone would look at Kobe and just say like the dude was building something bigger, right? Than one singular game or one championship or one season. Yeah. It's one I've been thinking about ever since I read that book. I've just been thinking about it probably every day. Where I just think about what we do and how it relates to that, because it's not everyone sees the disc golf industry on the back end, so it's like kind of insular to talk about it.
Yeah.
But we've got room to grow. And like you said, it's probably the nature of any industry that's of similar size or of similar growing pains. It's like talking about,
but I think the industry
as a kindergartner, like we've got room to grow because we're a child, and that's okay.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I think it's also the industries and the companies that do become great, you kind of find a way to break out of just what's natural for every industry. You know, every industry kind of does it, and then you got to figure out how you do beyond it.
Yeah.
I think the kindergarten analogy is good. I think also because, like, literally, what is kindergarten? It's the kid garden, like in German. It's like a place for kids to grow.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's not like you're not just saying that you're in kindergarten that your company is young. You're saying that you're in a place that is to learn and to grow.
I definitely was not today years old when I thought about the fact that that's what kindergarten means. So I've never thought about that before.
Well, not
probably because when I was there, I wasn't thinking about those things. Maybe I love the idea that you were thinking about those things when you were in kindergarten.
Well, I definitely wasn't thinking about those in kindergarten, but I have thought about them in the 22-year sense.
Nah, you were thinking about it in kindergarten, and you were talking so fast, and your teacher was like, "Dude, chill."
It's true.
Yeah,
it's true.
Dang.
So, dude, I was playing euchre in kindergarten. I would play 2-person euchre with my teacher in kindergarten because I was such a math guy.
Euchre?
Euchre.
What's euchre?
You're not from the Midwest, boy.
Yeah, clearly.
No, it's just a card game.
Oh.
You play with 9s to aces, and it's normally
Does
4
it go
people,
by
2
other
teams.
names?
Maybe, I don't think so though.
I feel like every card.
Wait, how do you think you spell it?
EU.
Yep.
KER.
No, EUCHRE.
Okay.
Euchre.
Sounds like a vegetable.
Kind of, yeah.
Like if I wasn't.
Those are also grown in the garden. Good segue, Jesse. Good
there
job.
We go. Constant improvement. I think when we look at you and I and how we're living such different lives in terms of like the practicality of what we do, it always shocks me about how much of a Venn diagram there is between you and I.
How much of that
think it's because of that constant improvement. We're focused on that. We're focused on growing constantly. So
I was thinking about this at the beginning because so much of what you were saying at the beginning when you're talking about Trash Panda, I felt was relevant to stuff that's I've been experiencing and thinking about. And I was like, is this just like the human condition to find relation with other people, or is there actually like more that we actually are experiencing like very similar things just in very different contexts? I think it's a bit of both, where it's important to find relation and similarity and like story. Essentially all this is the story that we are living and telling is similar in different contexts, but the underlying things are very similar, which is pretty cool. And it's helpful to talk about it too, because it feels lonely a lot of times, especially for me. I don't know. This has been one of the most lonely couple of years for me.
Yeah.
Just because we don't really have a lot of community. And then because of the way that I was playing the games, I didn't feel like creating it, because it was like, I would see people subconsciously as enemies rather than rivals or even friends or like collaborators. And I think when I was talking about the pie slicing versus cutting and how you can see growth as one thing, but it actually be the other, I think that was more of what I've been doing than I would like realize until I had talked about it like that, where it's like, I've always talked about disc golf needs to look at, like I think about it in terms of market share, not pie, but it makes the same thing. Like if the market share of disc golf grows, if the overall market grows and your share stays the same, you grow. Like that's just how it is.
Yeah.
And I've thought about that a lot and talked about that a lot, but I think I've been on the side where I'm trying to grow the market, but it's actually just my slice of the market. And so, yeah, there's a lot this year.
Yeah. We're halfway done.
Yeah,
with these conversations.
It feels
That's
crazy to think that I'm moving in 4 months.
I know. I'm not happy
or will
about
have
it.
moved.
I'm
like very excited, man. I cannot wait.
For you.
Yeah, I'm not excited to like leave.
I get it, and I'm happy for you.
But I think I'm very excited to move.
Yeah, no, I'm not happy about it. I'm like already like USDGC is pretty much always on the calendar now, and so I'm like, okay, I'll be out there then, and then I got to figure out another time so we can just like hang out more. Because I'm not happy about it. But
yeah, no, I think it'll just be good to set down roots because everything I've been talking about, there's so many things that like fatherhood also brings up.
Yeah.
And just like wanting to have community and wanting to be the person that I want my daughter to be.
Yeah.
Or like embody those characteristics. I don't like have an idea of who I want her to be, but I have characteristics that I think are and values that it would be good that she embodies. But moving I think is going to be a big helpful part of that.
Yeah.
But it is like bittersweet for like these type of things.
For
but
sure.
I honestly like the way that I've done things is not built a life that I will miss. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's not something I want to continue moving forward. And I'd like to miss these last 4 or 5 months. And I've done a lot of things that I've actually made these last month or two much better
for sure.
for that. But like for a couple of years, like it's just so focused on like the initial goal of like financial safety. And then we had a kid and like, so like the life things are moving forward and moving along.
Yeah.
But like, I'd rather like, it's easier like emotionally to be like, I don't want to have to miss this, but I'd rather miss it because that means that it was worth it in the moment.
For sure.
You know what I mean? So, yeah.
I can't top that. That sounded like an inspirational poem in the writing. So that's where we leave it. And we're halfway through. Damn it, dude. I can't believe you're actually moving. I don't think I actually swallowed that pill when we started this. Yeah. But we just got to hang out as much as possible before then. So it's all good.
We're doing a good job this month.
I know. Let's keep it up.
Speaking of, I should probably edit that video.
Yeah, you got to go because you got to edit that video.